Hey, everybody, and welcome to yet another Moohead Radio Cleveland Browns postgame show with the final score 21-7. 21-7. Now you remember it was 10-7 at the half, and I told you that Marone would come out and run the ball and run the ball and run the ball and run the ball and wear down the Cleveland defense. And I told you that the one certainty of playing a clean football game, which was blown early with the initial interception, only got worse. Now, what can I tell you that you don't already know with your own eyes? That this quarterback cannot play in the NFL. The experiment needs to stop now. The second that Kaiser went into his typical end-of-game panic mode, it sucked the life out of the Cleveland Browns. He is the gift that keeps giving for the other team. He's an individual who his teammates have no confidence in. He has sucked the life out of the organization. He's an individual who, even when the defense plays a clean game, does not commit penalties, doesn't jump off sides, doesn't commit interference penalties, doesn't screw up defensively by missing tackles. He finds a way through it all to suck the life out of everybody around him. Now, cases in point. One, let's take that last fumble, not the last fumble, the fumble before. What is he doing holding the ball out here? He knew he was in trouble. Why didn't he tuck the ball in that situation? Why did he allow his arm to be extended like that? Because he's a panicking moron. Two, at the end of the game, which the thing that resulted in the touchdown, he has no feel for a pass rush. He has no clue, and he never will. Three, he continues to throw the ball behind people or sailing the ball crazy high, which resulted in yet another interception. 100% of this loss is on Kaiser. 100%. I don't want to hear from Hugh Jackson about progress, about, any of this, this kid's got these intangibles. General Doug says we don't have a quarterback on this roster who'd be better than number 3 anywhere else. That's right. We don't have one, but I'll tell you this. I don't remember in the darkest hours of last year, Cody Kessler panicking like this idiot. I don't remember that. Now, I saw Hogan sailing passes, but as far as sheer panicky nonsense, I haven't seen this kind of stupidity since Brandon Whedon. It's really an epidemic with this guy. This was a winnable game, Drango Unblocked says. That's right. It was a winnable game, but not with this quarterback. If you have a quarterback who doesn't turn the ball over and hand the ball to the other team in the end zone, because he made sure he got it done. The thing that's remarkable about Kaiser through all of this is that the first one should have been a touchdown, but they didn't allow the return, the recovery and the return for a touchdown because they had blown the play dead and said that Kaiser was down. Turned out not to be the case. That should have been right there, 21-17. But you get the ball back, but he's going to do it again. The real final score of this game is 28-7. By the way, I said it would be 24-3, just so you know. I would have picked the point spread correctly even had what should have been allowed be allowed. He just does whatever he can to screw up. He's panic stricken. He has no idea who to check down to. He has no idea who to throw the ball to. The ball wobbles out of his hand. Look, all I was hearing about this guy is, oh, what a strong arm he has. The ball looks like Billy Kilmer wounded duck. And if you're really, no, Durango unblocked, it should have been 28-7 because there should have been 2 touchdowns as a result of Kaiser's fumbles. To me, I just can't imagine ever playing this guy again. He's supposed to have a strong arm, but there's something horribly mechanically wrong. Guy played it in South Bend. That's a cold environment. The ball's coming out of his hand like a knuckleball. There's no spiral that he's throwing. I don't get it. I mean, it's obvious what happened to Notre Dame when he was there. The guy's just not any good. Wow. Yeah, and obviously nobody showed up to watch the game. Why would they? Wable says, yeah, I had hope for Kaiser, but I've seen enough. Durango is awful. So now you have a pick that has to go for a quarterback again. You see, what happens is every year of misfiring, every single year that we misfire on our first-round draft picks, every year, it pushes us back 1 year further from being successful. Because we have to follow the next year the same way by drafting a quarterback. And then that guy doesn't become any good. We're not making any progress whatsoever toward filling in skill positions because we keep, it's like we're shooting targets and we're missing the target every time. And we're just running up rounds of ammunition and running out of ammunition. The idea is you select the quarterback who in your mind is the no-fail guy. Now, obviously, easier said than done because there's very few guys who come in ready-made into the NFL from college as can't-miss guys. But when you consistently reach for people and pass up the Carson Wentz's and you pass up the Deshaun Watsons, and you end up consistently picking second and third round quarterbacks like Kessler and Kaiser, this is what happens to you. You end up with Charlie Fry. You end up with people who don't belong in the league. It's like Anthony Bennett, NFL style. That's what it amounts to. So you start all over again, over and over and over. And so you never get any good players. And then, of course, now, Joe Thomas has to be replaced. You have to get a left tackle. And, whenever you need a position that is a can't-fail position, that's your first-round pick. And our first-round picks have just gone for nothing. Look at Jabril Peppers. Can you imagine? What a waste of time this organization is. And I don't want to hear from, and there are people watching this who are, on Browns forums all around the internet. There were people who wanted to debate me live on this program about how the front office has done a great job for the Cleveland Browns. Well, bring it on. You can get a hold of me, mooheadradio@yahoo.com. I'll put you right on the show with me. I got no problem with that. How you could believe that the front office is doing a responsible job drafting the people they've drafted, God only knows. Hugh Jackson, gone. Obviously not a great, strategic coach, but there's nothing to work with here. And you know something? Even when receivers are open and the ball's thrown 10 feet over their heads, the defense is the one that catches the ball. To me, it's unbelievable. DeShone Kizer has more ways of turning the ball over and winning the game for the other team than any quarterback I have ever seen in all the years I've watched the Cleveland Browns. And we've had some real Lulus out there. Guys who just weren't very good. Guys, Jeff Garcia didn't have arm strength. You just kind of look at some of the quarterbacks. Charlie Fry didn't have arm strength. Whedon had arm strength, but no brain. Then you had Anderson, who had a strong arm and no brain and no mobility. It goes on and on and on. I mean, year after year, it's the same guy. Nobody has the tools to put it together. And the thing is, it's obvious from their college performances in many cases that that's the way it is, not to mention Johnny Manziel. Why anyone would think that would have translated into NFL talent, I have no idea. But the reason is, for all the talk about, the Browns have this new direction of analytics, blah, 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 there's always the new sheriff in town. It's like, we're going after Johnny Manziel because, we want the mobile quarterback because of the Russell Wilson thing and the Colin Kaepernick thing. We want Johnny Manziel to make something happen. And look what's happened to all these quarterbacks who were the diminutive running quarterbacks. They're crippled. So we couldn't get Manziel because we couldn't get him on the field because he's got an alcohol and drug problem. So instead, we got another one. We got RG3 after he was already crippled and hurt. You see, in a copycat league, if you're the one copycatting something that's at the end, you know what that's like? I'll tell you what it's like. It was like 2 years after the fact, going out and doing the Macarena dance. If you're doing the Macarena dance 2 years after it expired, you're in the wrong time zone, man. Cleveland Browns front office, jumping on a trend when the trend is failing. That's how people go broke in the stock market, man. Come on. These are decision makers who are making the worst possible decisions. There can be no continuity on a team where there's not even agreement within the parties in the front office. There can't be. To make matters even worse in all this, the players don't believe that if they do their very best, that they will ever be rewarded. If Greg Williams guys, what do you say to you? If you're Greg Williams, what do you say to your guys? What do you say? Good job out there today. You did everything we could have asked of you. You got turnover. You held them down. You did what you were supposed to do. But no. What do you tell them? We still lost. And when the players come up to you and say, we kept giving the ball back to that idiot, he kept turning it over, and then he pounded us with it, he killed us, he crippled us. How do you answer those players? And yet Kizer will trot out onto the field because of Hugh Jackson the following week and the following week. Nobody wants to play with him. None of the receivers believe they're going to see the ball even if they're wide open because Kaiser's not going to see them. To me, it's just the whole thing is so broken. It is so broken that there is no fix without cleaning house. There is no possible remedy for this without cleaning house. Yep. Here's some, some comments coming from our chat room. Jim Mora got fired. New Browns coach. Quinn, another shit Notre Dame quarterback. Right, Brady fucking Quinn. He was good looking. I don't know what else he was. He was good looking and religious. Peppers is so bad, so very bad. Mingo was a better pick than Peppers. Yeah, well, there's Mingo. That name always comes up too. Hoyer went 7-4, Tony says, and then choked harder than a hooker on a black guy. There you go. I mean, you know, Hoyer is a capable backup quarterback in the NFL, and Bill Belichick believes so. He is capable to come in and do a job if your primary guy gets hurt. However, he's not a starting quarterback, and he's proven that everywhere he's gone. Maybe they can hire a blind squirrel as general manager, possibly. Dozens of round 1, 2, and 3 draft picks have been appalling. Absolutely. These are all comments from the chat room. Can Jimmy run the team from prison? On and on it goes. Burn Berea, salt the fields. There you go. Clean house every 2 years. The Cleveland Browns mantra since 1999. That's right, DP Joe 6. That's right. But you have to. You have to do it. What choice do you have at this point? You got no choice. It's so inept. It's so incompetent that, I mean, the players are still going to be here. What you have to remember about all of this, and take it from somebody who understands, who's done this before, who's turned failing businesses around. And I was damn good at it. What you need before anything else, what you need is the belief from the people inside the building. The first thing you do is you determine who you're going to keep and who you're going to lose. All right? As the owner or manager of a business, you have to make the decisions on who's lethargic just because the environment has crept into them and who's just a freaking loser to begin with. All right? That would be the difference between, somebody like Ricardo Lewis, who can't catch the football, and then you take a look at a guy like Treggs, who you don't really know, who might actually be better if he had an opportunity in another system with a quarterback who actually saw what was in front of him. But with Ricardo Lewis, it doesn't matter because he can't catch any ball that's thrown to him. Consequently, who do you keep? Who do you lose? That's the first thing. That is the important thing that has to be done, because there are always a boatload of people in a business who can help you if you can sell to them the idea of how you're going to make it better and get them to buy into the plan. But there was no attempt by this front office to get people to buy into a plan of analytics. And once the fights began between the front office and the head coach, there's no agreement. There's no point of agreement. So what do we end up with? And the answer is we end up with the mess that we're in. The environment is toxic. Nobody can buy in to what we have because we don't have anything. You see, if I went into a group of radio stations and I said, okay, this is the one that's going to become the contemporary hit radio station. It's got a great signal, and this is how we're going to bring it up, and then we're going to promote it. We're going to make the product really sound good. And, this is how we're going to research our music. This is how we're going to raise the ratings of the station. When the ratings go up, then you'll see that we know what we're doing. All right? So I did everywhere I went. And once people saw it, they bought in. And I kept the right people. And turnarounds took a year. That's all. A year. And that's when you start building. No, I'm not saying a turnaround, getting into the playoffs. No. But a turnaround is where you go from being a company that's not making money into a company that's making money. That's where the turnaround starts. And after that, then how high can you take it? But I'll tell you one thing. When there's a buoyancy and a feeling of positivity inside of a locker room or any business, you can feel it. And likewise, when you walk into a restaurant where the manager of the restaurant is a prick. You can see it in the face and the attitude of the servers. You've been there. You've been to restaurants before where it's like, man, that person doesn't even give a shit. Why? And you could say, well, maybe that person never gives a shit. And then you start realizing, God, I've been to that restaurant 2 or 3 times and every server I've had doesn't give a shit. Then you realize environmentally the place is toxic. That's it. Until you clean up the environment, nobody's going to buy in. You're never going to make progress. And that toxicity, no matter what the players say, the players are going to say, oh, I support Hugh Jackson. The reason, and I'm seeing now that Tony is saying, I don't know, Hugh Jackson says that Kaiser will remain the starter, no doubt. Says they just can't afford turnovers, but we just got to continue to work at it, continue to get better. I'm not believing anything Tony says, to be honest. Give me a credible source in the chat room, and I'll believe that. But in the end, you've got to create a feeling like, okay, we have a plan that everybody agrees with. But the players are going to say we love Hugh Jackson because that's who they're playing for. That's who they're playing for. If they say bad things about Hugh Jackson, they're not playing. All right. There hasn't been a single coach and a single coordinator that Joe Thomas ever said something bad about. All right. Understand that a player who is paid to do a job isn't going to cost himself a job just to tell the world an obvious truth. Now, General Dog saying Hugh Jackson said Deshaun Kaiser will start next week versus Bengals. Adam Schefter tweet. Okay, now there's a source there, you see. There's a source behind that, so I'll read that. And I'm not saying that you were necessarily lying, Tony, but you know something? You never know. You never know when you're just trying to get my goat. So, I don't think any player is ever going to stand up and say, oh, God, I don't want to play with Kaiser, because Kaiser is the guy that Hugh Jackson wants. And if you say that, then Hugh Jackson will bench you. If you're a good guy and say what the coach wants to hear, he'll play you, whether you drop the ball or not. A source on Ogba's broken foot. That would make sense if it's busted. I was still finishing up the halftime show, and I didn't get out there in time to see that injury. MKC confirmed it. Kaiser starting next week. Just heard Hugh say that in the presser. Great. Mary Kay Cabbagehead. She must be like the Exorcist baby with her head spinning around at this point. And Ogba was playing such a good game and was coming on strong for this team. And it figures that this would happen. But everyone's getting hurt in the NFL this year anyway. So why not Ogba? Okay, Osweiler just threw a 100-yard interception return to the Bengals. You see? What does it matter? Every decision that the front office made, every decision was a bad decision. We're paying half of that nutsack's salary, half of $16 million fucking dollars. Who would have done that? Comforting to know getting rid of Osweiler was the right decision? No, because we paid him. We brought him in thinking that he was some kind of trade bait that was going to get us more meaningful picks that they could screw up on. According to Mary Kay Cabbagehead, Browns Jackson said he needs to see Kaiser play for the rest of the season to see if he can be the guy. Oh, wait a minute. You said he was the guy, Hugh. Hugh will change his mind, literally every 10 minutes. You can't believe anything that he says to see if he can be the guy. You're not going to be around Hugh to see whether he's going to be the guy or not. And nobody's going to take the job in Cleveland with Kaiser as the starting quarterback. It's not going to happen. Oh, and Hugh Jackson says, no question, he still sees signs that Kaiser can be the quarterback of the future. Yeah, Hugh is not the guy. That's correct. He's the wrong guy. I guess the Bengals, it was a 99-yard interception, and the guy fumbled it on his own at the 1-yard line. What was he doing? Was he celebrating prematurely? Wow. And it's not like this was a great game or an exciting game to watch. It was more like, well, you're sitting there knowing we're not going to score again because the quarterback can't get it done. But you're still, the thing that's amazing about Kaiser is that he can still make you drop your jaw. You can still watch it and not believe what your eyes are seeing. It's like, wow. I can't believe that he would implode this badly. It's worse than getting lost underneath a big flag in the pregame. And we've seen it all at quarterback from the Cleveland Browns. Wow. There's nothing else really to say. Just remember, and the Bengals did score. He just lost the ball inexplicably, I guess. He was probably shifting it into another hand, I guess, to start a celebration in the end zone, and it fell out. Who in the hell knows? All I know is this, that you have to have people who know how to turn things around and know how to sell their agenda to the team. And the owner can't do that. That's really the last, two owners of the Cleveland Browns with Randy Lerner and now with Jimmy Haslam. They hide. You don't see them unless Haslam is, pouring beer for people in London because he got a vacay out of the thing. I don't know. If from the top down, if you're a crook or if you're autistic and you're afraid to be seen in public or whatever the deal is, that doesn't inspire confidence for the people below you. And then what happens is when you have absentee owners is that the people in the front office start fighting with one another or fighting with the coaching staff. Here's the Browns' Hugh Jackson. I'm never going to take losing okay. I'm trying to win. This locker room is trying to win. They're fighting their tails off. We got to play almost a perfect game to try and do that. No, it's not going to happen. As long as you keep playing that idiot quarterback, he's not a game manager. Huge Jackass is saying, can you be an autistic crook? I suppose it is technically possible. You just don't want to be seen stealing. Has there been any attempting to win in this organization since the return in 1999? There's been no clear-cut direction, no. And in so many cases, there have been, from the Kokinis thing with Mangini, moving on up to the power struggle in the management quarters and in the front office after that. And then now what we have now, what you had with the Randy Lerner situation of just never being seen and hiring people willy-nilly, dilly-dilly. And, you need to have, the guy who was the architect of Green Bay, Wolf, has a son, and he might be a guy, if you're willing to shell out a lot of money, that you would talk to because he's got a pedigree. He's young. He's been around the NFL since he was like a young kid. So I don't know. You got to find somebody who has an understanding of how this pieces together. And you know right off the bat that when you hire people who have no experience in their jobs, and then you hire a quarterback, or excuse me, a head coach, and the people immediately in the front office didn't really have the say as to who was going to get hired as the head coach. So immediately you have a weak link there, between the front office and the head coach. Then the losing starts, and then the fingers start pointing. You need to be a cohesive unit from the very beginning. That's what I can tell you. Always going to build with our new players that turn over every 2 years. And that shouldn't be the case, DP Joe, but I understand what you're saying, but you cannot leave this in place. You can't leave it in place because, everybody that we've gotten rid of, from, looking at Mangini and Joe Banner and the whole group, you look at all of them, the head coaches, Chudzinski, none of them have ever returned to a position as high as they were with the Cleveland Browns. In many cases, they're out of the league permanently. So, to me, I would just give up. Get rid of these people. I mean, holding on to this toxic environment, it just cements an 0-16 season. I don't, if that's what it is, that's what it is. But you should be making your moves now. You should know who you're going to hire now. That would be my suggestion. That's it. I'm done. I've said everything that I want to say. But we sit and watch and shake our heads in amazement. And I'd like to tell you that, this is an easy fix, but I, year after year, tell you the same thing. Until you have consistency at the top, you have no foundation on the bottom. And where you have no belief, players will leave you. Nobody will come to you in free agency unless they're going to get a big payday like Kenny Britt and then not put out. Those are the types of guys you're going to get. Nobody is going to come into a situation that's broken like this. So got to fix that first. Thanks a lot for tuning in to this Moohead Radio postgame show. Back again tomorrow on Moohead Radio at 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time to pick up the pieces. Until then, have a fun rest of your Sunday and a good week next week. Hasta la vista, Pastor Heads. Bye-bye now.